To teach you what is an if-else statement in Unity by making a very simple 2D game like this. Let me play this. I will teach you like how we can use if, I mean that if of the C sharp script. That's very important because it is one of the thing that gives us condition like if this thing is true then this thing should happen. So what is happening here, this is a game for the mobile phone. So if I tap, this is a condition, if I tap on the screen then this thing jumps up, otherwise it don't. And this cube is moving on its own. When it goes here, when it reaches here then it resets its position. That is also an if. And one more if that is happening, if this collides with the player then the scene resets. That is also an if. So there are like 3 4 things where I can use the if and can tell you like in a very simple game. This is a very simple setup. It's a 2D game for phone, and so you can understand the basics. You do not have to like confuse yourself. So first what I have done, here is a platform, here's a ground, like this has a box collider. This is a player like a cube or a sprite, and I have given it like the rigid body and the box collider, and to the platform just the box collider. To this obstacle I have given just the box collider, so it collides and the collision is detected. First thing we have to do is make this player jump. How we make that jump? We change its value on the y-axis. Let me play and look for this value. When I tap, this thing is changing. Okay, this thing is changing. This thing is changing. And look at this obstacle. When I play, its x value is changing. It's changing its position on at the x-axis. It's getting changed. It's getting changed. So that is what we have to do in the script. But first for the player, so we have to access this transform and change the value on the y-axis. So I have already created the script for the player. Here is the script. I mean, you know how to create the script. Just come here. I know you know it. Okay, you're not that like newbie. Click here, right click, then C sharp. I mean, you can do these things along me. If you are trying to do this thing, you have to take for the platform, come here, 3D object, cube, and now expand it on the x-axis. Maybe make it 20, large enough. On the y-axis, not too much, maybe 0.3 is okay. Now press W on your keyboard, or this uh, thing. Now it's on here, but you might be saying this is white, I want to make it black. So come here, right click, create material, and now this material, come here, left click and change its color to whatever color you want. Maybe you make it green. Okay, and now you drag it onto this thing. You see now this thing is of a different color. This thing, yeah, this is of a different color. Same way you take the cube and do the things like that. I will delete this because I have already attached it. So first what we are doing, we are changing the position of the cube on y-axis. We are making it jump. Okay, so come here to the scripts folder that I have created. I mean, I have created, so you can create this script by right click. Okay, now when I open the script, I also have to attach this script to the player. You know how to attach. I will teach you along. Now what we have to do not get confused with these things. I will just make it easy for you. So what is a script? First of all, a script is a code file that has two parts. One part is the data, the input, where we give the input, maybe an object, a player, speed amount, jump amount, and all those things. And the second part is functionality, where we process the things, where we create the things. Okay, so here I have given a value, that's a variable. I mean, how much, I mean, what's the amount, what's the value, I mean, how big should be the jump. If I delete this, uh, perfectly no problem. I mean, this was a variable for our convenience. So mine means we want to give it a value on the y-axis, so we created a variable so we can understand it. Now if I come down, I created another function I mean, instead of writing this functionality inside the update function, I created a function for jumping only, so that I create this function here and I call this function here. Just by creating the function, it will not work. Remember, if a function is not made by Unity itself, if you are making it, creating it, then you have to call it somewhere, maybe in the start, in the update, in the fixed update, like that. But if it is a Unity made functions, you may not need to call it, because it happens by default. Now what I did, I created a jump player function. I just made it up. Now what I want to do, if I tap on the screen, so what I am saying, if means condition, if I do something, if I touch on the screen, touch means input dot get button down. I'm not making it up, it is Unity made, and the name of that tap or touch is fire1. What happens, transform, the transform that I showed you, like this thing. This is the player, and this thing should be accessed, and it's now we want to access the y value, and we want to translate it or transform it, change it. Simple. Transform dot translate vector 3 dot up means, let me make it easy for you, vector 3 means vector 3 dot up. Here it means 0 on x-axis, 1 on y-axis, and 0 on z-axis. But instead of writing all those things, we just wrote vector 3 dot up means 0, 1, 0, and then we multiplied it by a value. Just call it maybe 1. I mean, but 1 doesn't make sense to us, so we created a variable and gave it a name, and that name has a value. So if I play it now, come back to the Unity, and I will try to play this. Jump value does not exist. Okay, there was the player initially. I will look at the variable. It will jump by this value, but this is happening. But instead of writing this one, I could just write jump value and create this function, maybe over there or maybe here. I mean, I can create here, but this will be a local variable. Remember that you cannot use this variable inside other functions, and sometimes you do not need that also, so you can create here. Now the computer will still understand jump value as 2, but we can make sense that this is something that is relating to jump. So what is an if condition doing here? If we tap, I mean, if I remove this if, this will not work. The Unity will not understand why this input is happening. I mean, if we tap, if we jump, if we fire, then this thing should happen. So that is the meaning of if here. Okay, and now come back here. I mean, this thing should be making sense to you. If it is not making, do ask me questions. Okay, for a newbie, these things are tough. I mean, if you're a beginner, then these things will be tough for you. And if I touch, the scene reloads. Now what we have to do, we have to make this cube move. How we do that? We have this cube, this obstacle, and its y-axis is changing constantly. How we are doing that? By attaching a script. We created a script and called it obstacle. Let me open it. What I did, just do not get confused. Do not get confused. I created a function. I mean, it's a good practice to create functions separately instead of creating them inside the update function, because update is the place where things happen constantly, and if you write so many things in the inside update function, then things will get confusing for you. Create a function elsewhere and call it inside the update function, like I did here, or inside this also. I created this jump player function here, but I called it here. I mean, now it is much cleaner. Now I can just put them over there, and if I'm creating like fire gun like this, and might be I have created this function and I just call this function here. Now when I have to correct things or means I have to check things again, this will be easy for me to work on. I mean, that is a good practice you have to get used to. Okay, Move obstacle is a function that I created, and what is this doing? This is changing the x value. So how it is changing? By transform, it is accessing that transform component, and translating means changing its x value to the left means minus x. Okay, left means here, left means if it is x, vector 3 dot left means minus 1 0 0. Minus 1 means it's moving on the x-axis to the left side, to the negative side. On the y-axis it is 0, it is not going up and down. And on z-axis it is 0, it is not going forward and backward. And then we multiplied it by speed, some amount that we need. Okay, and I created that variable over here, the speed. I mean, it's easy, and I gave it a uh, public value so we can access it inside the Unity editor. So now we want to use if. Why we use if here? I mean, now we want, okay, we move the cube. I mean, this is moving from here to here, but it will keep on moving. But we want reset its position when it reaches here. I mean, this will be a common scene in your games in Unity. So we are using if is a condition, like if this thing happen, then this thing, then something should help happen. And there is if else, if is if this condition is not okay, then if else, then that condition should happen. Okay, now I'm using if here, and then if the position of this cube on x-axis on the left side is beyond minus 10, I mean it is less than, I mean it has gone to that point, then we want to reset it. This is this is a condition. If it is true, it means this condition is true, equals true. This is the meaning over here. Okay, this is what it is saying. If it is true, if this condition is met, then do this. If it is not met, then we either write another condition, or it will not happen. Okay, what we are doing, if this condition is met, we are resetting the position, not just on the x-axis. So here the condition was on the x-axis. If it has gone to that point, now we want to reset the whole cube back to the place, to the right side, so it can come back again. Transform dot position equals, mean, to a new vector 3. New vector 3 means we are setting it to a new point, to the to a new point. Why vector 3? Because it has the three axes, like x, y, and z axis. On x-axis it will be, right now if it has gone minus 10, then on the right axis it should go back to the beginning of the screen. So we put 14, we could write 10 also, or 20 also, if we want to take it farther away. And then on the y-axis whatever it is, on the z-axis whatever it is. Now it will reset its position on the loop. We do not have to do, or we do not have to worry about it. Now another function I am calling here, this is a Unity made function. We do not have to call this function over here. Okay, understand, this is a Unity made function. On collision enter 2D. If this thing means this obstacle, that is the name given to this obstacle by this function. By default we could change it to obstacle also, obs. Okay, and then we have to write here obs. Okay, if this obstacle collides with a thing that has a tag of player. What is the tag? You should know that also. Here is a player. Now if this obstacle collides with a thing that has a tag, this is the tag, this has a tag of the player, then what should happen? Then we want to reset the scene, we want to reload the scene again. What we did, if it collides, I mean if it is not happening by default, only if it collides. So you understand what is if? I mean we are making a simplest game, and we are using the if. I mean how we can use the if here. So there were conditions like if I tap on the screen, if means if I do something, if I meet that condition, if that condition is true, then this thing should happen. So first if I touch the Second, if this cube moves beyond this point, then this should reset its position back again like this. And another if, what is doing, if this thing collides with it, if this is true, I mean if it collided, that became true, it, yeah, it collided, then that scene should reset. Guys, if it is not making sense, do ask me questions, I will make it easy for you. And if you are liking this stuff, do give me a like and maybe a subscribe. Thank you, have a great day.